Your customers are craving a great tasting, authentic pizza experience. That's why we offer Primo Molino Neapolitan style flour, an affordable, high performing flour that's a great alternative to imported Italian 00 flour. It's milled right here in North America, so you can always count on authentic crust texture and taste without the imported flour price. Using an imported flour today? Check out ardentmills.com to request a sample and try it for yourself.
Welcome to another episode of Checking In. I'm Josh Keown, and I'm joined by the lovely Denise Greer.
Hello, Josh.
We are pleased to have guests from the beautiful state of Montana on the show today. I'd like to welcome Karen and Jeff McBirnie of Pete's Rocky Mountain Pizza and Pasta in West Yellowstone, Montana. Thanks for joining us today, guys.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for reaching out to our editor in chief, Jeremy White. Letting us know your story. We love to hear that. So, and I can't wait to let everyone hear your story here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when I read that letter, I was like, wow, they've been through the ringer this year.
Been an interesting year for sure.
Yeah.
For everybody.
I've been to one other pizzeria that's in one of those small communities outside a national park. I've been to one outside of Grand Canyon. So I'm a little bit familiar with pizzerias operating in those types of areas. So tell us a little bit about, being in that type of an area and what you've experienced.
Well, I grew up in West Yellowstone, and so for me, it's just home. And it's a tourist trap, basically, a tourist town. We see 12,000 visitors a day. And it's insanity at best,
And what's the size of that town? I mean, for 12,000.
We have 1,200 locals that live there year round.
Wow. So yeah, having 12,000 a day, that's crazy.
Yeah, we really rely on a lot of outside help. The national parks and the restaurants do. Those being J1 visas and H2B visas.
Okay, share a little bit about what that is, because I don't know that a lot of people probably may not know what that is.
So an H2B visa is a worker. Usually they come from Mexico, but there's all sorts of different types of programs out there, and a lot of the hotels hire them because we just don't have enough workers in our community to fulfill the jobs. I like to, when people say, "What do you mean you don't have enough workers?" I like to say, "Well, we have 1,200 people in our town, but we have 5,000 jobs."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we have to bring in people, and sometimes it's people from around America that like Delaware North is a big company, and they have huge housing developments for their workers, and they bring them in, and we hire second jobs, third jobs, and then the J1 program is student workers from other countries, mostly Eastern Europe, that area. Sometimes we get them from Dominican Republic, Costa Rica. The Caribbean, Bahamas, that type of area. And so those are college kids that are just trying to expand their world and come out and work and see what it's like.
Yeah.
We have work campers, which are just professional
retired people.
Yeah.
I like that.
Work for a living. And so we have a couple RV slots where they can stay and work for Pete's.
Oh, wow. That's very unique. I have never really heard of being able to have kind of that RV living, working.
Sounds like a pretty good life to me. I'm not sure.
Yeah, sign me up. When can I go?
I think for all of us.
So in your letter to us, you let us know that those weren't available. So you were working with a third of your workforce and probably gangbusters as far as sales once the season hit, correct?
Yeah. So, I mean, when we opened up in May, the park wasn't open. And when the park's not open, there's no business. And so we were down 71 to 80% from May until June 12th. And then once June 12th happened, it was like the floodgates opened and the people showed up in droves. It was just insanity.
Yeah. Now, how are you able to, operating with such a limited workforce? I mean, how are you able to do the daily functions of getting the pizzas out the door and making sure that that you're operating?
Like Karen and I, we worked every day, usually 12 to 15-hour days ourselves. We asked a lot of our employees that were there. We asked a lot of them to do double duty to really step up their side of things. we just did whatever we needed to do to make it work. And I mean, we had wait times for pizzas were sometimes up to 2 hours to get it just a simple pizza.
So sometimes not well. But we did end up doing, as you would expect, a lot in to-goes and deliveries. And we just hit some new benchmarks this year and ended up doing about double the sales. We brought in about $1 million in 6 months of work, probably more like 4 months, because the park was closed for a couple of those months.
Mm-hmm.
So we had times where we couldn't operate. Sometimes the entire restaurant had to stop taking on, we would shut off our online orders, turn the telephone off, and tell people we're stopping to-goes because we had tickets on the floor.
Like the printer just kept printing them, and we couldn't keep up, even though the rail was full on the cook's line, and there was another 35 tickets behind it. And it was just,
That's daunting.
it's very daunting. And people, the tourists didn't understand. They're like, what do you mean 2 hours for a pizza? It's just a pizza. And you're like, there's 47 orders in front of you, and, that are just as important. And unfortunately we can't, prioritize, based upon your hunger level, unfortunately. But with the third less staff, I mean, we had to just ask our staff members to step it up and do their best. I mean, and everyone helped out whatever was needed, we just did.
And it's okay to say it is what it is. That was our saying as we went through the summer. Let's say we were out of green peppers one week because the truck didn't have green peppers, or we ended up not having even more staff because of the coronavirus. They maybe get COVID. And so we just ended up being extremely flexible with that mentality. Just do what you can do.
It is what it is a great tagline for 2020.
It is what it is. Exactly. I think so too.
So did you have to, I'm sorry, Denise.
No, go ahead. Cause you're probably going to ask exactly what I want to say.
I was just saying, with the truck availability and whatnot, did you have to change your menu up a lot, slim it down, to make orders easier, whatnot?
We did. We started off with a limited menu, just because the volume wasn't happening. And then as summer got busier, we actually went back to a full menu, but our trucks, because they were only coming some once a week, some 2 times a week, normally we get them 3 or 4 times a week. We just had to buy in mass quantities, and we're such a small restaurant. We're used to operating out of reach-in coolers, we didn't have big walk-in coolers, but that changed at the end of the summer. We broke down and we had to buy a big walk-in cooler for Outback because I don't want to play that game anymore.
Yeah. We've definitely seen that. A lot of people have to buy it. Yeah.
Yeah. They used to come several times a week. And then sometimes this summer they were down to maybe once, maybe twice a week. So we just had to stock up, but we reached our limit. There was only so much, for instance, like fettuccine that you can buy, store, make, and then
ready to go,
and then only so many pizzas we could actually take out of the oven in this kind of restaurant style, really, because it's a very small restaurant. The kitchen's about the size of like a normal Subway, like, the front part that you see. That's our entire kitchen. It's an open kitchen concept. So there's only so much food you can put through the pizza oven. Just hit those limits every day.
Yeah, I imagine that was hard on you, not just, operating your business, but, just, working through the stress of it. How were you guys able to handle the stress? I mean, you're here and you made it through another season.
You're good. All your hair to
To be honest, there's just large portions of the summer we don't remember. Like this morning, we were trying to figure out how we opened our lunch shift and who our dishwasher was. And I don't remember who it was. I couldn't tell you how we made it through the first week, and like July is just, I don't even know what happened in July.
That's called being in the flow, being laser focused. I mean, that's exactly what that is. It's like, hey, hats off to you guys for just keeping it together for that.
Yeah.
Also, I think at the same time, we were hearing from people all over the nation, you should be so grateful for what you're experiencing. And we were seeing what was going on in the rest of the nation as far as restaurants closing down. And it was almost like we were in a whole nother world, really.
Yeah, we hear that from a lot of operators, especially ones in smaller communities, because you are being depended on for the food. I mean, it's an essential. Eating is essential. That's the one thing we learned in 2020. Eating is essential. So,
It's essential. Yep.
So was, due to the pandemic, I know people were taking different kind of vacations than they normally would. So was the park attendance up this year? Is that, granted you guys were down employees, but was the park attendance up a lot? And is that the reason?
Yeah, so the park attendance every month was up. I think except for June it was down, but that was only because it didn't fully open until I think it was like June 5th. But yeah, every month the park was up all the way through the end to when it closed. And on top of that, there was limited services in the park. So people that were staying in the park, camping, or at the few hotels that were open, there was no food services. They had to come out and eat.
To the border towns.
To the border town. Jackson, West Yellowstone, Cook City. And they, and so people were driving in from Canyon, which is only 40 miles, but through the park, it's a 2.5 hour drive just to get down every night,
Because they didn't know, maybe they hadn't researched the limited services. And of course you had your regular tourists that I don't know if they've been to Yellowstone before, because they'd say like, where's the nearest Costco or big chain supermarket? We'd say 90 miles.
You just have
so I hope you really need what you're going to get.
Right.
Hope that's worth that 90 miles. Okay, so when the park closed, you guys shut down in your off season, correct?
Right.
Yeah, we shut down for the winter time. The park opens back up middle of December and goes until middle of March. But the business is just so slow there. I mean, they only allow snowmobiles and snowmobiles. I think in our gate, I want to say it's only 400 total snow machines and snow coaches through a day, which equates to just maybe 1,500 people. So there's 4 restaurants open in town for 1,500 people. It's just not busy. And so we find it best for us to shut down in the winter and take a break from craziness in the summer.
Now that you're taking that break, you're kind of able to breathe for a little bit of time. What are you looking to when you guys open? So you guys open back up in April, or
April.
You open? So kind of what's your plans as you get ready to open back up? Because from what we hear, April, we're still going to be dealing with a lot of these restrictions and things that we've still been seeing. And so kind of what are you planning for as you get ready to open back up for April?
Well, we're expecting that it's going to be busier than normal for a typical April opening, just because people are still out traveling, and if they're, I don't know how they're doing it, being unemployed and everything, but they are. I think we're just planning it to be busier than normal. We're already in our hiring season, and so we're hiring people to get there and just start working. It's all we can do.
I think we're going to get our H-2Bs approved. So that would help us out immensely if we could get the help that we used to have. And then I think the J1s are going to get approved. We've already got our work campers set. So we're already looking at staffing. And of course, this is a great time to look at our menu as well, make those changes as needed.
What's something you're looking at on your menu? Is there something you're really eyeing to change up on your menu right now?
Well, every year we go through, we get a report of the numbers of what we sold. And so, for example, we have a taco pizza on our menu, and
we love tacos.
Went through in the numbers, and it was the lowest selling pizza.
You just don't do a good job at making it.
Well, it's got some ingredients that are just only used for that pizza.
Yeah.
So, I don't need to carry salsa and taco meat for one item that's not selling very well if I don't have to try to cross-utilize everything. And, some items you don't need to, so.
Yeah, sounds like you're going to help your food costs in the long run, though, leading that off, so.
Yeah.
But we also get some positive feedback, too, from customers, from our staff, and some of the biggest requests were for keto salads. So you'll see that going on our menu coming up this summer. And then we'll also use that salami for in the lunchtime making a grinder. So we're just working on some trends in those directions to help us out, make things more efficient. Yeah, and space, of course, space. Right now, we're looking at getting a mobile home, putting it on somebody's property to increase housing for the staff, because that's also an issue.
Oh yeah.
Wow, you guys got a lot more to deal with than the average pizzeria. Just being where you are and just dealing with the circumstances of your environment. That's it's pretty unique.
It's nice that you have
For the
that
first
time
year.
down. Yeah, it's nice that you have that time down, but also, you blacked out all summer, so, you know.
You were going to say your first summer?
Yeah, we're actually living in an RV for an entire year running a company. So we get up to about 38 employees. And so we're sitting around running payroll from an RV because we didn't have housing ourselves. And now that we've secured it in this very tiny town, it's
wow.
Now we're working on it for our employees because that's, definitely something on their minds.
Yeah. Wow. It's very unique. I was going to ask you something else about your menu. Okay, so since your audience, or since your guests are all kind of tourists, it's probably pretty hard to guess what their taste preferences are, right? So kind of how do you go about developing a menu for tourists?
So we keep it pretty simple, if you will. I mean, we're for like the Italian side of things, our pastas, we run the standard gambit.
Mm-hmm.
I like to look at other restaurants that are successful chain restaurants and kind of see what they're serving. And then we kind of mimic that too, because a lot of the times those chain restaurants have the resources to be able to do the research on what are people eating and what are, and if you mimic them, you're going to probably be semi-successful in what you're selling, because we have such a large population every day of new people.
Yeah, wide range. So yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, what sells somewhere and does well doesn't sell at all. Like we went with the seltzer,
The White Claws.
White Claws last
2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago? And I think we sold like 30 of them all summer.
Oh wow.
We ranked number 1 in Montana, but we realized that our demographics were completely different.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's okay to do trial and error. Obviously, we don't now sell seltzer. We've gone back to our microbrews and American beers and called it a day. But it's okay sometimes, I think, to say it didn't sell.
Sometimes things are flops.
That's okay. I mean, that's the worst that's going to happen.
As long as you adjust, you're going to be good.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's when you don't adjust that you get in trouble, right?
Exactly. Yeah. If you don't change your ways, then eventually.
Yeah.
Well, let's go out on a nice question. What do you think is the biggest lesson you learned, or something that you're going to take into this new season, kind of from all the chaos that we experienced from 2020?
For us, for me at least, and I think my wife would agree, since we bought the restaurant just 4 years ago, we still have a pretty big financial commitment to the lender of the loan. And we've always been able to make our payments. That's not a problem. But this year, at the beginning of the year, we started off so slow. It was actually scary. I thought that maybe we weren't going to be able to make our payment for the first time ever. And so we learned that we need to have at least a year's worth of operating capital in the bank. And so because we ended up with a good summer and with some extra money, we put an entire year's worth of bank payments basically away. So that way we could weather a storm for an entire year. And for me, at least, that was the biggest learning, because I was terrified in May what was going to happen, because, you can't live off bringing in $200 a night in sales,
Mm-hmm. I think so. Just gratitude, if you could somehow weather the storm and make yourself feel more secure in that respect, that's exactly what we did. We didn't have any lavish parties afterwards or when we were done or anything. We just expressed gratitude and tucked some money away and called it a day and finally got some sleep, I guess.
It is what it is. It is
what it is.
Well, you guys take the next couple months and just rest up, because I'm sure it's going to get crazy, busy again, and enjoy your downtime, because you deserve it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
All
Best of
right.
luck to you guys. It's
All
great.
right.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
See
All
ya.
right.
Yeah.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.